Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so hopefully we can run through this without too many more issues. Okay. So hi, my name is Doug Ferguson, and I'm going to be talking about the iOS shortcut app. Okay. How many people here have worked with shortcuts? One? Okay. So I'm going to start out with a simple one. And this, when you look at, I think you have to download the shortcut app. It's not included on your phone by default. But anyway, so I'm going to start with a simple one here. And I'm going to do a mail shortcut. So I'm going to send an email, and I will choose a I'll choose a contact. So I will send it to myself, and I'm going to keep a subject of test for right now. Okay. So you'll see it created a shortcut called send email. So when I click that shortcut, it'll just pop up a thing so I can send an email. Now, the other thing you can do with this is once you've created the shortcut, you can come over here to the little three dots and highlight that. Well, that's editing it. But what I can do is, I can come in here and basically, sorry, keep on clicking the shortcut. You hold it down, and if you say share, you can actually, you can put an iCloud link so you can send that to someone, or more importantly, you can add it to your home screen. Okay, and we'll give it a name here. Send mail to me, and add. Now, if I go to my desktop, you'll see here now there's a shortcut. It says send mail to me, and if I just click that, it'll bring the email up. And that's a real simple email. If you've got some people that you're emailing constantly with the same subject, like a report or something like that, you can do that, and then you can just click here and it'll populate the Now, the other thing we're going to talk about is a thing that's really powerful called automations. Okay, I'm going to show you a new automation here. So on my phone, I like to keep the orientation lock on, which can be a problem if you go into certain apps like Photos or something like that. So I'm going to create a automation here and personal instance. So I'm going to choose.
What are you typing or doing to bring this up?
Well, I just go into the Shortcuts app.
Okay, but I have shortcuts too. I have starter shortcut, but I don't have automation.
Well, you should have. It should be there. I don't know.
Oh,
Down the bottom.
At the bottom. Okay, well, that's
Sorry.
Good to know.
Sorry.
All right.
So I go to hit add, and then I'm creating a personal automation, and I'm going to have an app, and I'm going to choose an app. Oh, there's app. So I'm going to choose an app, and in this case, I already have an app I already have a shortcut for the photo app. So I'm going to use the calculator app. Okay. So when the calculator app is opened, I'm going to do an action, and the action I'm going to do is, you can search for anything here. So set orientation lock, and instead of toggle, I'm going to turn the orientation lock on, and it's done. Okay. So now if I come in here and I open the calculator app, Okay. So if you look at my orientation lock, oh, no, I didn't turn it off. It's weird. May not work with the calculator app, but anyway, I have other shortcuts like for when I open my Photos app, you can see it turns the orientation lock off. So now if I open a photo and I turn, that won't turn apparently, so, or won't show the photo, but you get the idea there. Okay, it did. Okay.
Is there a corresponding way to
Yes.
swipe photos?
Well, that's what I'm going to show you that in a second. Okay. So I'm just going to close this app. So if I go down here, I can show you that. So you'll see right here, I have the same shortcut, but I've chosen when Photos is closed, and then I'm going to set orientation lock back on. So if you look here, it's been turned back on.
It's just
Good question. I don't think it'll activate until you actually leave the app. So we'll test that real quick though. So Photos are here. You see my orientation lock is off, but now I'm going to go back to the shortcut app. My orientation lock turned back on. So apparently it will know what's in front and what's not in front. So that's good. Thank you for that question. Okay, so any questions on that? Fairly simple. So I will show you another app you can do. And when I go to trigger an app, I can also trigger an app at a time of day. So I'm going to have this app run at about 7 a.m. every day. Okay. And I want to run it daily, or I want to run it weekly, but I only want to run it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay. So I turned off Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the weather, if I spell it right, fat fingers. So I'm going to get the weather, get current weather at my current location. Then the next thing I'm going to do is get the details of the weather, and I'm going to get, there's a whole bunch of things you can get here. I'm going to get the temperature from weather conditions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an if action. And sometimes it doesn't find things, oops, especially if you don't spell them right. So I'm going to do an if action here. If, and I'm going to say if the temperature, it automatically filled in temperature since that was the last variable that I got. If the temperature is less than, and I would use something like 40 degrees here normally for this type of shortcut, but since it's greater than 40 degrees, so if less than 60, okay. Now I'm going to add another instruction. Done there. And normally what I could do is I could send a message. I'm just going to show an alert, and the alert's going to say, go start the car. Now, normally I would say I was going to send a message to my son to go start the car, so it's warm when we go out. Now, what I have to do is I have to take this action and drag it into the if statement here. Okay. So I've got this right here. And what I can do to test this out is go here, and you see this little button down here on the right, the little play button. If I run that, and I got a prompt that says, go start the car or something. But that's that's how that works. So if I want to delete this automation, which I do. Some other automations I have are, I have to work weekends periodically. So I have an automation that I've set up which looks at my calendar. So I have right here, find calendar events where all of the following are true. And I scan for the next one day, looks for the next day, and it looks for the title of work weekend. So on my calendar, if I have work weekend on my calendar, and then if calendar events has any value, it'll turn my work alarm on. And if it doesn't, it'll turn my work alarm off. And coincidentally, it'll also, if I'm working the weekend, it'll turn my alarm for my church off. If I'm not working, it turns the alarm for church on. So this is a really great way to manage your calendar. Similarly, I have another shortcut I use. If I am off for the day, I do find all calendar events and I search for the title work off. And if work off has any value, then I turn my alarm, my work alarm off. Otherwise, it turns my work alarm on. So I don't get woken up if I'm not working. There's other shortcuts you can run. You can control your watch. So I have a situation that if my church flag is set, I tell it to turn the theater mode on my watch on so that my watch isn't making noise during church. Before anybody asks, there is no way to silence your phone from a shortcut. The only way to silence your phone is the switch. People have complained about it. I'm just saying. And conversely, after church at like 11:15, it turns the silent mode off. So I don't even have to look at my watch, it just does it. Now there's other things you can do with shortcuts. There's a tool called Data Jar. And you have to download this app. It's free, so don't worry about it. And what Data Jar can do, that's for later, is Data Jar can store values for you. Okay, so I have a test in here, and the test value is a Boolean value. Okay, and I have a shortcut that I wrote just to play with this. Okay, so I use the Data Jar shortcut, or use the Data Jar tool, and I get the value for test, which is one of my variables in Data Jar. And I have it look at the value, and since it's a Boolean, I can just say if value. So if the value is true, we're going to do this. And so if the value is true, I set a text value to false, and then I set that test value to what the text value is. So that'll take false and write it to Data Jar in test. Otherwise, I set test to true and then set test in Data Jar to what the value of that text is. So you can see where this would be useful, because one of the things I did, if you look at my app here, is I have it checking to see if church is true. So if you go back to my one that checks my weekend schedule. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one there. If I go back to the one that checks my weekend schedule, what it does is if I'm not working, it sets the value of church in the Data Jar to true, so that my watch will not go into silent mode unless I'm going to church. So that's how I have two shortcuts working together through Data Jar. Now, the other thing you can do for automation is when you set a time, you can set a time based on like sunset. So I have this automation running 15 minutes after sunset. Now the situation was I have smart lights on my porch, and in the smart light app, I would have them turn on at a certain time. And with the time change and with the day changing and everything, I had to keep going in and changing the time that these lights would turn on. So what I did was I made a shortcut, and the shortcut is set to run 15 minutes before sunset. And what I have it do is I have it go into my Casa app and turn both the porch lights on. Now I always turn them off at a certain time, which doesn't change with daylight savings time or the sunset. So I left that in my Casa app. So that's one thing you can do there. Now, what was the other thing I was going to show you guys? Oh yes, one thing that's kind of annoying is you'd like to have a personal automation that runs when you get to a certain location, when you arrive at a place. The problem is that these automations will not run on their own. They will always ask to be run. So I found this out when I did a thing where when I was at my in-laws, I had it run a notification or run a shortcut when when I connected to their Wi-Fi. But the problem was that wouldn't run automatically. It would always ask me to run, and it was annoying. So what I came up with was I'm using sorry, I should have gotten these out beforehand. Oh, wrong thing. That's a battery. I'm using some of these. Now, these are NFC tags. You can buy them on Amazon. You can either buy stickers, you can buy cards, or you can buy these little discs like I bought. So that's the case. I'm going to drop them in. I drop these a lot. Anyway. So what you need for this is you need a tool to write to the NFC. So I just have this one free app, and it's set for scan now, but there's also set for write. So I'm going to write to this NFC. I'm going to write the value of home. Okay. And then I'm going to click the button. I'm going to hold the NFC to the phone. And I'm going to click the button that says write. And it successfully wrote to the all right. So now if I go back over to the read section and I tell it to scan the NFC code, it comes back with the value of what you get for using. So it has a text of home on it. So now what are we going? Why do we do that? Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create personal automation using an NFC, and I'm going to scan my NFC tag. Okay. I'm going to name the tag home. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is, just to show you that it ran, I'm going to add an action that's an alert. Show alert. Home. Sorry. I delete the text that's already there. Say, we're home. Now you could have it do all sorts of things. You could have it turn on lights or whatever. So now that that's saved, whenever I scan this tag, okay, now it's not going to work, naturally. Maybe I need to get out of this app. Come on. Oh, I know why. Because it went to the default of ask before running. So I want to tell it not to ask before running. Okay, now it should work. So you can see right there, I scanned this tag and it says we're home. Now, how's this going to help you? Well, what you could do is you could just like glue this little thing in your car or inside your door at home. And when you walk by it, you can just go boop, and it says, okay, we're home. Now I can I'll run the automation. So,
They cost.
I don't know. I think I paid like $10 for this box, and there's like 30 of them in here or something. You can also get just plain stickers. They also sell for more money. They sell like cards, but they have some additional features to them. So they're like $15 for a card. But I've also programmed these. I had one, I don't have it with me. I had one programmed with my website. So if I held it up to somebody's phone, it would say, do you want to go to this website? So
Here does it have to be?
just right next to it. It's not like you can't scan it from like across the room, but you just got to put it right, like right on. It's like right near the top. So there it goes. It's like right near the top. So just search for NFC tags on Amazon and you'll find them. Like I said, they're not that expensive. It's like, I think I paid $10 or $15 for like 30, for like 50 of them. They're so cheap, I just like lose them. But you can do that to have automations. Like when you walk in the house, you can just, Now there's other things on automations or shortcuts that you can do. So now you notice when I did this, there's a sorry, wrong place. There's also a home hub. I don't have that set up because I don't have a an Apple home hub. But if you have a home hub, you can have it linked to different things. So you can actually activate shortcuts from if you've got the speaker or something, or if you've got temperature sensors in your house, you can have it turn on. Yes, yeah, that's been there. But I don't have that, and most of my stuff is all my automation stuff is Amazon. So, but you can see I could still access the Casa app, which is what controls my lights. So there's other things you can do, which are you can have sound recognition. So you can choose a sound. Oh, come on, why is it not? I don't have any sounds loaded, probably. But you could have automations run if it hears a fire, if it hears a smoke detector, or the door open or something like that. That's the other thing that it can do when it's connected to your Apple smart network at home. You could have door sensors and everything. There's things that can do for certain battery levels. If the battery level goes to 50% or falls below 50% or something, you can have it maybe switch modes to low power mode. You can have it when you have different focus modes. A lot of people have focus modes, as things that are set up when they go to drive. If you have CarPlay, there's a way to have it connect up when you connect to CarPlay. See right here, is CarPlay. When CarPlay connects, you can do certain things. When CarPlay disconnects, you can do certain things. There's Bluetooth connections. So you can see if it connects to my different Bluetooth devices. But the thing you'll notice on this is this is another one that needs to be done. That has to be, it'll ask before running when you connect to Bluetooth. So I don't know how useful that is. Let's see what else. You can do things when you get an email. You can do things when you get a message. So I can say, okay, if I get a message, if the sender is, somebody, then you can have it do certain things when you receive a message. Same thing if you receive an email from somebody. If you start an Apple Watch workout, some people have set up things where if they start an Apple Watch workout, it'll, change the lighting in their gym or something. You can also have it prompt you for things when a shortcut is run. So you can have it prompt you to say, what value do you want? Something like that.
When you're doing that email app, could you go back to your contacts and say, I want to send this email this person, that person?
Yeah, because it brings up the regular email app, so you can just add contacts if you want.
So you don't have to hard code that.
No, you don't. No, you don't. But the reason for hard coding it was so that you didn't have to put the contacts in all the time. I mean, I have, what's that?
For a group, you're always sending.
Yeah. I have one where I email my pastor, so it brings all of them up and put the topic, put the subject in there. So delete bookmark. I don't want that anymore. So in data jar, you can also put, you can also add dictionaries that have a whole bunch of stuff in them. You can have lists in data jar. So you could have a shortcut where you would add like grocery items to a list, and you would keep that list in data jar. So let's see if we can do that. So we'll do just a regular shortcut. And input. So I also have Toolbox Pro installed, which gives me other options. So it's like right here, I can ask for input. And the prompt I'll put in here is I'll say item ? Then what I'm going to do is data jar. I'm going to add it to a list. Add provided input to the beginning of the list. And I have to tell it what the list will be, so I'll just call it groceries. Okay. And now what I'll do is I'll go over to data jar and I will add an item, and it's going to be a list, and I'm going to call it groceries. Grocery. Save. I go back to here. I put the wrong thing in there too. So that's done. And you notice I don't have the ask before run here because this isn't an automation. So I hit done. And so I click right here. on this shortcut, and it's asking me for the item, and I'll say milk. Okay. Now, if I go back to data jar and I open this list, you'll see I have milk. And then I go over here again and run it. And I say bread. I can go back to data jar again, and now I see I've got bread and milk. So, and then I could write another shortcut that would read that out to me and say, show me what's on that list. So, or I could have another shortcut.
Speech to text.
What's that?
Like you could talk to it, or
You can have Siri run shortcuts. I haven't tried that. You can upload shortcuts to your watch. I haven't tried that yet either. So we've got a couple more minutes left. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
You're giving the impression that all these variables, blank namespace, it's unclear. I'm sure that's not true, but it's
Which variables in data jar or?
every variable.
Yeah, it's really confusing how their variables work. So like when I was working with setting things in data jar, I had to create a text object and then assign a value to it. And then I was able to take the text and apply it. So it seems like it only works with the latest variable that it had. So I can't really answer that. I'm sorry.
Another question. I just want to know the sliders. Setting, like the settings that's thousands of sliders. I just want to move on.
Yeah, there's some things you can do here. Give me an example of a setting.
Well, actually, the rotation lock is one that only you see us. Maybe I shouldn't use that, but
Well, it's not rotation lock, it's orientation lock.
sorry.
So what you can do is you can search for the settings. So you can say, for instance, let's say volume. Okay, so I have set volume here, and I can tell it to set to 50%.
Yeah, that's something that's built in.
Yeah,
So the first thing the settings have.
so let's try that. Yeah, so right here, set airplane mode.
Yeah, the problem is that these are all recognized. I want to control the setting that's not recognized, but I see it on the screen.
Such as,
Well, the problem is, I don't know which problem I can do to recognize.
well, we can try a couple here.
I know in the past, I've been unable to locate things built in, but yet I see settings notes, but it's not recognizing. Shortcuts now.
Okay. Well, not everything's been put in here. That's the problem.
Oh, so you can only control things that.
Have shortcuts attached. Like there's certain apps that have shortcut capability, but other apps that don't.
That's a critical concept.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. There's a like I said, the Casa app that I use to control my lights. That's accessible via shortcut.
Right, so it's a random app you download and install, and then not the understandable shortcuts.
Right. You can also look here in the gallery. There's shortcuts that are set up here. There's also a couple places online. There's a podcast I think called Automators, and also the podcast iOS Today on the Twit Network. They have a weekly shortcuts corner where people send in questions. You can send in a question and they'll say, okay, here's how you do this. And the person on there, Rosemary Orchard, she's really good with shortcuts. I mean, she's done some amazing things. Sometimes she doesn't show all the steps. Like I didn't understand how to do the if thing, and she didn't really show it. But until I realized you have to take the you have to take the thing you want done and drag it under the if. And I didn't know that until I saw some other people online. I've been posting some shortcuts that I've created on my website, themindofferg.com. Themindofferg.com. So there's some people out there who created some really, like, I mean, there's some people who have, like, 500 or 600 shortcuts on their phone because they're like automating all these different things that they do. I haven't gotten that ambitious, but I've just automated a few things that I found. Like I had one automation that I deleted because I don't need to use it anymore, but it was pretty intense because, okay, I had a meeting that my day had normally started at 10 a.m. Okay. So I would get up at 9:45, but every other week I had a meeting at 9:30. So what I did was I went into Data Jar. I created a value called meeting. And so for the week where I was going to have the meeting, I set it to 1. And then in my shortcut, I had to go through, first of all, to check to see if I was working that day. If I wasn't working that day, then don't bother with my alarm. But I would also have it take that value. If it's 1, change it to 0. So next week I don't have the meeting. If it's 0, change it to 1. So next week I have the meeting. And then it would turn on the alarm for 9:15 if I had the meeting. Otherwise, it would turn on the alarm for 9:45 if I didn't have the meeting. So that was a pretty intense shortcut, which I deleted, and I'm not running anymore. But that was only running on Tuesday or Monday night, rather. So that was pretty intense. There's also stuff where people get input. Like I showed you the input there, where we're adding stuff to that list. And then, I could have it turn around and email me that list, so that's some of the things people do stuff like that, stuff to automate their work. But I understand the thing with changing settings, because I have a problem finding settings sometimes, but almost every setting I've had to change has been in there. So, but not every app is shortcut accessible. They have to do things in their app to make it shortcut accessible. They have to expose API, kind of like exposing API stuff.
So it's Data Jar is just another app.
It's just another app you download. It's called Data Jar. You just download it.
So why would you use, for example, that grocery example?
You could, but Data Jar will let you go in and read that list and read all the items in the list. Not necessarily. Data Jar is just a better way to do it. I haven't tried reading a note. You can write a note. You can create a note. But there's no way to, I don't know if there's a way to read what's in the note. You could probably do that, but Data Jar is just an easier way to do it.
Do these run on iPads?
Yes, they'll run on your iPad.
Newer,
Any
you
iPad.
have an old iPad that
It should run.
you could just,
It should run.
check the weather and.
Yeah, I haven't tried it, but it should run. Like I said, I really don't have much use for the shortcuts on my iPad, but
I mean, it's a spare.
yeah. The other thing you can do is you can send the shortcuts. You can send the shortcuts up to iCloud, and then have them automatically download to your iPad, or send them to other people. There's people that have there's a ton of shortcuts online that people have created. I'm just trying to give people an idea of what it can do. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like I said, there's that podcast Automators, and the people that run that have sites where they put all their shortcuts. I'm sorry. I probably should have had those sites.
Are there any books that you have used?
I haven't looked for any, but I don't know if there are any. Anything I've tried to do, I usually look online and somebody's already done it. It's easy just to search for things and find it.
Missing manual series.
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Usually he has very clear presentation,
Mhm.
lots of stuff on the platform.
Well, the part of the problem is there is so much involved in shortcuts that nobody's going to have all the information.
Yeah.
Because it's like they do the thing on iOS today where, somebody writes in and says, "I want to do this," and they're like, "I've never even thought about doing that,"
Is I'm thinking the example you showed, disabling shortcuts while you're looking at photos.
Oh, you mean the orientation lock?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So for example, I figure about half the apps I use, one orientation lock on, the other half. So rather than writing 100 different automations, one for each app. that has
Yeah.
its own orientation.
So here's some interesting ones. Open app on Apple TV. Okay, I'm sorry.
So I'd like to have a list of apps I use. Rest on. So I would think they put 50 different app names. But you actually very inside combination apps that is currently controlled.
I don't know. In Toolbox Pro, there's check if app is installed.
So Toolbox Pro is to make up for a lot of
Yeah,
shortcuts, not knowing these things already.
yeah. I don't know. I don't see anything for that, but
Give a list of these theory apps.
yeah, these are the two that I've used. Yeah. So here's places where you can append to note, move notes to folder. I haven't looked at the Apple TV commands. There's a bunch in here. Set captions, set light dark mode. Yeah, it's for the Apple TV. That's for the Apple TV device. With what? Well, when I type if this then that shows up. So I can trigger an applet on if this then that. So I had problems with if this then that doing things that I wanted it to do. It wasn't obeying. So actually got into a discussion about if this then that with some people on 2 meters one day. So any other questions? Like I said, you can look at my website. I might add some more shortcuts to it. I do them on YouTube, and then I put them on my blog. The other thing, like I said, it was just there's a podcast called Automators, and then also on iOS today they have a shortcuts corner where they answer questions, and they get some interesting ones there. So Anything else?